The Dane and Derek Show is an uncensored, unfiltered podcast. Content warnings can be found in the episode description.
It's not really that crazy. It's just I like to be in my comfy chair, so it doesn't have to be that crazy. I could be over at my desk, but I'm not.
I feel you on comfy chairs.
Mm-hmm.
I just got a footrest.
Yeah, mine has an ottoman.
Ooh,
it's really good. It's really, really good.
Good stuff. Hello and welcome to the Dane and Derek Show, a podcast where two nerdy friends attempt to keep in touch and shoot the shit. I'm Derek, a writer, director, and occasional D&D player, and with me, as always, is my buddy bud Dane.
Hey everyone, I'm Dane. I'm a writer and a musician, podcaster, and I am an absolute lover of tabletop RPGs.
But this week on the pod, we're actually going to be talking about the antithesis of tabletop RPGs, video games that we particularly either had a bad experience or dislike.
Are video games the antithesis?
No, I don't think so.
What
now
does
that I think about it,
mean? Hold on.
It's like the opposite of it.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, the direct opposite of someone or something else.
I guess it's a lateral,
or a contrast or opposition between two things.
So I kind of used it correctly.
Yes.
Because while they're the same thing in concept, they are different experiences, therefore different.
Yes, I find them to be related but deeply different experiences.
Yeah.
For sure. But anyways, sorry, I completely got off track because I like words.
All good. I sometimes use words and forget to look them up. My second grade teachers would have been upset.
Oh no. So sad.
Yep. So Dane, what turns you off about video games?
Easy one right off the bat. We're not talking about like games can just be broken, of course, or like kind of objectively bad, like they don't play very well. So we're not talking about that, I assume, right?
Yeah. I would say, yeah, like there's no point in comparing like a jank Mario game to a new Mario game that is less jank. You know, there's no point in comparing that because
there's no point in comparing something that isn't even functional to something that works but isn't.
Correct. Yeah.
If that's the case, one of the first things that usually turns me off is length. More and more rare is the 80-hour experience that I'm into. So like that right off the bat can kill something for me. Like Horizon Zero Dawn, for example. That is a great example of a beautiful, well-made, excellently running game with like really functional mechanics that like 3 hours into I was like, nah. I don't want to do this for the next 70 hours. Like I don't want to do that. So that's a pretty big one. Another thing that will often turn me off is a story that, and this is just like basically all media, is a story that has no real care for its audience. One that disrespects its audience. And for example, I have really conflicted feelings about the Bioshock series, but the longer I've been with them and the longer I've sat with those games, the more I've landed down on the side that I think the Bioshock games don't work for me anymore, because at the end of the day, the story they're telling and the game they give you are at odds with each other. And they don't want to actually say anything. Not at the end of the day. I think, like, for example, in the original Bioshock, it's ostensibly a criticism of Ayn Rand's hyper-libertarian, hyper-individualistic philosophy, right? Her philosophy is that one person alone and the individual rights is better than the collective, in a sense. She is not a person who believes in um, the needs of the many outweighing the needs of the few.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, she grew up in Stalin's Russia, so there is uh, one might understand where she would develop such a philosophy. So the game tries to, or at least says it's saying something about that. But if you actually look at what you do in the game, you, a lone rugged individualist, go about and save the day. Like, the mechanics are completely at odds with it, and it's kind of disappointing in that sense. Like, it's like you didn't say anything, or like I think it's Fallout 5.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't it doesn't say anything either. Um, all or maybe one of the best examples of this, maybe the most famous example of this that I could think of off the top of my head, is in Skyrim. Um, a game that typically I have pretty good feelings about, but this has always bugged me. Is luckily with Skyrim you can completely ignore this, so it didn't ruin the game for me. But it's if this becomes like the core central uh crux of a game, I'm often turned off by it. But like in there, you can either join the rebels or you can join the Empire because there's a civil war happening, and
Mm-hmm.
that's your choice. The rebels are racist and shitty, and the Empire is pretty authoritarian and unjust and shitty. They're trying to make these things equivalent, if that makes sense. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
it's almost this argument that there are no good sides, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they don't do anything with it, right? Like it's not explored. It's just meant to make the world feel gritty, which I always think is just kind of dumb. Like don't
Yeah.
introduce something
Mm-hmm.
um if you don't want to explore it. Like don't
Mm.
make serious issues like authoritarianism and racism set dressing. Don't do it. It's not a good move. So that often turns me off.
Mm-hmm.
Um yeah, those are some big ones off the top of my head. I'll let you talk. I've talked for a minute here.
Yeah, I agree with you that as I've gotten older, the length of a game and the setting of a game and sort of what they give you and what's considered set dressing and what's considered essential to a game can be really frustrating. Uh, I think something that really turns me off about games is I guess this goes for a lot of media as well, but when a game banks on inherent nostalgia to tell its story and as a result isn't actually any good because it's just riding nostalgia. Uh, that is something that I can get really turned off by. Like I have a really hard time with like games based on movie IPs. Or games that are like sequels to game series that have been gone for 10, 15, 20 years. I have a really hard time with those games because sometimes they're just not great because they're banking on people liking the original game and bearing through the new game versus enjoying the new game from a completely different experience. So I think that's probably the big one for me is just like nostalgia in video games and sort of using that as a mechanic to you know effectively make money off of something that's just okay.
I respect Bioshock less and less and Borderlands more and more in a way. Um, which might sound really silly and really dumb. Um, but my reasoning behind that is this. Bioshock makes a pretense of being a thing that it is not. Um, which is it thinks it's very heady. It thinks it's very philosophical when it realistically says very little about very intense issues it brings up. Borderlands, on the other hand, basically is a B movie, knows it's a B movie, and just is going to be a B movie, start to finish. You know, like, and I can respect that more. I have a lot of, speaking of nostalgia, I have a lot of good feelings around Borderlands in particular, just because of the way I played it. A mutual friend of ours, Will Cordell, and I basically marathoned all 3 games. Um, and so just, or 4 actually, um, which, warm fuzzy feelings aside, objectively, I don't really think Borderlands is really a thing we necessarily need in the zeitgeist and like the world. But if it has to exist, at least it exists as the thing it is, without any pretense of being something it's not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so I can really I can, although I will say I don't think Bioshock is like a horrendous experience, because at
Right.
least it has given me a lot to think about in its failings, if that makes sense. Like, in the way that it has failed to actually talk about the issues it brings up, and in having noticed that over the years, um excuse me, I I have gotten a lot more out of it actually in its failings, in this like thought process of like, oh, sometimes works will bring up issues because it's for reasons other than to discuss them, and maybe that's not responsible. Like, here's another example. This is a film example. In Solo, a Star Wars story. Did you see
Ah,
that? Okay.
yes, yes, yes.
Um, there is a droid, and I cannot remember her name. Um, but in the movie, the droid brings up like the fact that droids are kind of slaves in the Star Wars universe,
Right,
which
right.
we don't really discuss anywhere else. Um, but it's played for laughs, right?
Yeah, it's a punchline.
It's a punchline, and it's meant to make her character funny and quirky. Um, right? So you
Yeah,
bring up
yeah,
this like
exactly.
this very intense topic, or at least the metaphor of a very intense topic, and then they don't actually do anything with it, right? So like but I don't know if I would have ever noticed that if not for BioShock, right? So like, in that way, I would not classify BioShock as like a horrible video game experience. Um is there we've reached our first topic, haven't we? Did we get there?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about like rough experiences with games, and just we are talking about it, even if we're not making a direct like this is the worst experience.
Fair.
Because I think it's hard to quantify what is the worst experience you've had playing a video game. So,
That's pretty
but
fair. Do you can so you don't have like one that just sticks out in your mind as like the worst?
I mean, I have a couple, but they're for reasons that, as I'm now thinking, they're like not necessarily bad reasons. They're just reasons that don't gel with me. Like Overcooked 2, I had a terrible experience playing. Primarily because the first time I played it on a live stream, and I got very angry and visibly frustrated on said live stream. And because it's just a very stressful game, and I don't want to be stressed out by challenges and controls that purposefully make it difficult. Um, but like that was a terrible experience, just as much as like playing Shadow of Mordor was a terrible experience. Um, because they're two very different games, but the gameplay just did not at all. The gameplay and the story just did not at all grip me in a way that I hoped, and I just ended up really loathing it. And in the case of Shadow of Mordor, regretting the $30 I spent.
So, question about Shadow of Mordor in particular. Do you think that was particularly disappointing because you love the IP of Lord of the Rings so much? So it was just like a complete letdown of
Yeah, it's on that nostalgia train. Yeah, it's on that nostalgia train, and that's sort of like fans of Lord of the Rings. But I think I didn't necessarily like the. I think the stories is interesting, but I don't necessarily. I didn't like the mechanics. I didn't like the stealth, the combat, the possessing other orcs and effectively making them slaves to do your bidding. I didn't really like that. I also just couldn't connect with the main character. Um, like you're thrown into a cutscene, and then that cutscene throws you right in the middle of a game, and then it kind of also, I think, because I was also playing it on PC, and I think it wasn't made for PC, so there's just a lot of things with the port, which I also think is something that I think affected my enjoyment of it. But like, compare that to like Prince of Persia or Jedi Fallen Order, which have stealth mechanics and have jumping mechanics and have horrendous amounts of killing of things. In that same class category, there were just a lot of things that I couldn't connect with that ultimately I just didn't really like. I played like maybe an hour or two of it, and I was like, this is just not for me.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of like visceral like no thank you moments from games. I think my most recent negative experience with a game was with Doom 2016. Um, which was literally just the amount of camera movement like made me feel sick. Um, which that's not really on the game. That's on. It's not really even on me. It's just like that just that wasn't gonna work, you know.
Yep.
um,
I gotcha.
yeah, I think like I've never had like a rage quit moment. Because like I've always really liked I like difficult games. I don't know if I've brought it up here. I'm sure I have. I'm a fan of like the Souls series, um, like the From Software games, like Bloodborne, Demon Souls. I'm really excited for the Demon Souls remake. I really want that. But getting a PS5 is challenging right now. Um, anyway, anyways, um, so challenge is not the thing that often will turn me off. Or like having just like a really hard experience or not being able to get through something isn't really like the thing that like makes me rage quit. um I have had a few really bad experiences with online games though.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that.
Like I played Dota 2 for a while at the beginning of college. And I wasn't like terrible. I never devoted enough time to it to be good. um but we played one time with a brand new person, and we knew every like it's I think it's 5-on-5 teams basically. Um, and so we knew everybody on our team and on the opposing team. We were just doing kind of like friendly matches. And we had someone brand new, and I watched for 30 minutes as that person just got killed over and over and over again because the players weren't willing to lay off so they could learn, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like I was just like, I'm out. I'm done. I don't want to be in this. I don't want to play this competitive thing. This is weird.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that. I had a similar experience in Apex Legends.
Mm.
Because like I really wanted to play some sort of an online sci-fi shooter, but I had put in maybe like 20 hours into it, but I just kept getting paired with a lot of just not great people, and it wasn't a fun time. Just people yelling at you over the mic, and people just continually killing you or abandoning you. That's, I think, the worst part about online games is when you're with a team and your team does not try to help carry you.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that, like, when I think of good gaming experiences, I think of playing Castle Crashers with you, Robert, and Nathan, and
Yeah.
Like, I really ate shit during that playthrough, and I had to be super carried throughout the whole entirety of that playthrough. But because everyone was willing to just
Come
shoulder
have
a
a
few
good
more
time.
kills,
Yeah, we were
yeah,
having a good time. Like,
yeah, there,
yeah.
you know,
I
that it.
oh, you go ahead.
Oh no, it just because nobody minded that or were understanding because I'd never played it before. That it gave me an opportunity to figure out a build that ended up working out, and I ended up being able to fight and do stuff later on in the game. So, it's a thing.
Yeah. No, I think that's one thing that's like, because online games can have like, they have the opportunity to be really great.
Hmm.
And sometimes, and it's really a shame when the competitiveness of some takes away from the cooperative nature of others. So that's a shame. I will say, maybe my most disappointing gaming experience of the last few years overall, and I said this because I was talking about From Software, it's actually Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
Oh,
Genuinely, like one of the most disappointing experiences I've had in a long time with a game.
that's a bummer.
Um, and it's for a couple reasons. One, I waited like 2 years to play that game. I was so excited, like from the moment it got announced all the way, like day one. I was so excited. I was so damn excited. I like and part two is that game locks you into a play style. You can adjust certain things on the sides, on the edges, but you are playing a shinobi. You are doing stealth, you are doing parrying and fast sword play. The thing that I've always been able to do with like From Software's games is try a couple of times the first time I go through a game of theirs and find a build that I like. Um that but Sekiro does not give you that option. Like if you start out like I'm going to be a tank and then you're like, "Wow, I do not this is not fun. This is not working. I guess I'll go be a mage." That is not an option in Sekiro. Um, so there was no way for me to change styles such that I could play that game. Even though I was really excited about it, the story seemed cool. They were developers and artists that I love supporting, and it just made me sad. Like I was just so disappointed. Um, I think actually that might be something that I that turns me off to a game is if there is no way to get through it. Um, it like if the only way to get through it is through pure um unrelenting like skill or something, I'm not a huge fan in some ways. Which might sound really funny from like a Souls fan. It's maybe my biggest criticism of some of their games is that there is kind of an upward limit to that. Looking at Bloodborne and Sekiro in particular. Uh, but something I always really appreciated about like Dark Souls 1, 2, and to a lesser extent 3 is there were always options. Like in 2, the very first time I played and got through any Souls game, um, I had to play a mage because I was not good enough to like be a swords person, but the game let me do that. I had enough spells that I could just get through anything. Um, and right now I'm playing with my friend Kristen. We're going through Dark Souls 1 together, which really just means she's mostly playing and I'm um, guiding her. But she is not like a lifelong video game player, and she can do it. She can actually do it. It is taking a lot of work, but she's doing it and she's having a good time. And I think that's something that also kind of made me sad about Sekiro is like, wow, there's just no way to get through this unless you're like really, really good with video games and you're great at fast twitch stuff and you are not impaired in any way, right? Like, and so like that made me really sad. The $60 price tag also hurt. No lies. That was sad. The other game I'm really, really hoping for, and I have many reasons to hope for this to be good, is the next Dragon Age. I really hope it's good.
The next Dragon Age and the next
Um,
Mass Effect, because they just announced that.
Oh, I didn't even know that they announced that. No, my reasons for Dragon Age are fewfold. One, I like the Dragon Age series overall.
Mm-hmm.
I would very much appreciate if this one was good and even better than the others,
Mm-hmm.
right? I would really like if that they fixed some of the stuff in Inquisition, but kept a lot of the things that really made the other. Fix the combat, keep the social stuff.
Yeah.
Is basically my feelings about this next one. The other reason is this. My partner Gracie, her very, 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 very favorite game of all time is Dragon Age Inquisition, hands down. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. She has been waiting for this game for 6 years.
Has it been? It's been that long.
Yeah,
oh my goodness.
it has. Yeah, there are at least 2 more years to go before this game comes out, so she will have been waiting for 8 years. If it's not good, I am never going to hear the end of it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I forgot that these are old games at this point.
Yeah, what is Origins?
2008, 2009?
2009?
Oh yeah.
Like
and then because 2 came out in high school, so that was like 2011, 2012.
Something like that.
Oh goodness. Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh. That's a it's
a long time.
I'm not gonna hold my breath, but I will have faith. I have faith that the new Dragon Age game will be better than the new Mass Effect game.
I'd put money on that. I'd also put money on the fact that at the very least this new Dragon Age game will be significantly different than the others.
Yes.
Because they're all significantly different.
That is the nice part about the saga compared to like Mass Effect. What's up?
I will also put down that I hope the next Elder Scrolls is good. I do. I do. I complained about them, but I also do hope that's good.
Yeah, Oblivion is also up there for an awful experience.
Really? Not a fan of
Not
Oblivion?
a fan of Oblivion. Not really even...
To be fair,
I
couldn't get into that one.
Yeah, but I just... it's one of those games where, like, if you don't do the story early on, about, 30 hours into your fun time, stealing whatever from whomever, you just get fucked. Demons start pouring out of gates, and you get screwed, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's just not fun compared to... Morrowind is... There's a lot of nostalgia associated with Morrowind, and Morrowind has a lot of jank that you can exploit. And Skyrim, of course, is Skyrim. It'll always be Skyrim.
I think Skyrim is going to go down as one of those, like, historic games.
Well, I think it struck a nice balance of, like, the size of an open world game and the size of a story you need for an open world game. And the modding community, of course, loves that game.
Also, it hit the right balance.
Yes.
Of approachable, but not, like, no fun for, like, somebody who'd played a lot of RPGs.
Exactly. Like, I would say, if you're going to play an Elder Scrolls game, don't play Daggerfall. If you're brand new to Elder Scrolls, don't play Daggerfall. Don't play Elder Scrolls Online. Don't play Morrowind. Don't play Oblivion. Play Skyrim. It's
definitely the place to start.
It's a solid experience. Even if looking back on it, I'm not as thrilled about it, the idea of playing it as I once was.
Yeah.
But I think that's...
Yeah, there's a lot...
It's an age thing.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's a classic with significant flaws, you know?
Yeah.
It can't be as tight as certain things. Like, some games I look back on and I'm like, that was damn near perfect. Like I look back at Bastion, for example, and I'm like, damn, that was damn near perfect for me. Maybe that was the time for any number of reasons, but it is exactly the thing it is because it's so contained. And like Skyrim's just too sprawling. There's going to be some stuff that's like hit and miss. Like, on the other hand, like certain parts of it, like the whole Dawn Guard thing, that shit's awesome. Still love that.
Yeah, I haven't gotten any of the DLC. Maybe I should get some of that.
I like Dawn Guard a lot. The Dragonborn thing, but Dawn Guard, super cool.
Yeah, Yeah. That's how I feel about a lot of open world games is, don't make me special, just make me a person.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
alas,
I think that was
that's a hard one to sell for an open world game.
it is, but that's part of what I actually really like about The Witcher
Mm,
is that Geralt isn't the special one.
right.
Ciri's the special
Mm-hmm.
one. Geralt is talented, um, and often just the man for the job, but he's no chosen one, and that's kind of great.
Yeah, it takes some of the edge off. Like, I think that's what makes a lot of the games that I've enjoyed over the last year really good, with the exception of, with the exception of even The Legend of Zelda, because I guess Link is the chosen one. But Jedi Fallen Order, you're not the chosen one. You're just a Padawan with no skills
Hmm.
whatsoever.
Yeah, you're pretty
Yeah.
bad.
Um,
Pretty bad. I would also say that Dragon Age 2,
yeah.
part of what makes that special is that Hawk is not like special
Yeah.
special. Again, right person for the job, talented. They don't have like it's not like an Inquisition where you have a literal glowing hand or you're the last of the Grey Wardens in Origins, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm pro more not special heroes. Definitely there for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Less chosen one stories,
Yep.
please.
Less chosen ones and more um uh, like um
People doing their
yeah,
best,
secondary
or people
heroes.
with yeah,
Yeah.
people who have been like put in very dire
Mm-hmm.
situations. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm definitely there. I'm definitely there for that. Um, I'm also there for more games that are, I would call them harmonious. I've
Mm.
been trying to think this whole conversation about the things that kind of like throw a game off for me, and it's harmony of a
Mm-hmm.
game. Like I don't mind a very long game if it's really needs to be that
Right.
long. Or I don't mind I don't it's not like I'm not against games dealing with heavy topics. I just want them to deal with the heavy topics,
Right.
right? Or like boring mechanics. Like that's something else that kind of killed me about Horizon Zero Dawn. It was like I have played every game that this game draws mechanics from. And those games did it better because that was their core mechanic and it's just like this cobbled together um thing. The thing I will say about um Hades,
Mm-hmm.
which is a game I said I wouldn't talk about tonight, but I'm gonna talk about
Hmm.
it. Hades finds beautiful harmony in the um roguelike
Mm-hmm.
genre. So in the roguelikes, you die and then you lose all your progress,
Mm-hmm.
right? In Hades, that's part of the world. You're in the underworld already. In a sense, you're already kind of dead. You're son of Hades. So you can't die permanently. But you can be killed. But you'll just go back to the underworld, which is where you started, because you're trying to escape the underworld. And that's just like the most elegant thing I've ever thought. Because suddenly that means that like you can have a roguelike with a really intensive and intricate story with deep emotional connections. Because the death thing is part of the world. And that's what I'm always looking for in a game is like a harmony of mechanics and story and setting and all of those things to be working together as best they can be.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, that is a very good point, because that's what makes a lot of old games, I think, especially like old games that don't live up to today's standards in terms of tech and graphics or even necessarily story, but they're all harmoniously, everything works and everything serves a purpose, and it doesn't take away from the experience.
Right, because like on some level the limitations that those people were working under
Mm-hmm.
forced them to, like if this isn't working, it's got to go. Like it can't just be add a little bit to the whole experience. It has to be core to the experience or it's just never going to work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think if at the end of the day, here's what I'll say. Games that don't work for me are games that fall out of harmony in too big a way for me to handle. You know, either it's far too long and the game feels like stretched thin over that and I'm just like I can't do it, or the story is bringing up all these things and not respecting its topics and then not respecting us as the audience and that falls apart for me, or you know it's like the too many mechanics stuffed into one package.
Yeah.
But
I think that's a great note to end today's episode on.
solid.
Yeah. I think you summed up a lot of the feelings today.
I did my best. I tried.
Well, that's it for this week, folks. You can see what movies I'm watching on Letterboxd at Benig-Aiello. That's DerekAiello. And I'm also conveniently at Benig-Aiello everywhere else. Dane, what about you? Where can we find you on the interwebs?
You can find me on Twitter at Dane_Fogdall. That's DANE_FOGDALL. And you can listen to my show Diceology, like the science of dice, on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify.
Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next time.
Catch you later.